please explain the retrograde and what it means?
Metaphorically, it's as if the planet goes on vacation during retrograde.
Hey friends, welcome to Keep It Simple Sexy. I'm Christine Bullock, founder of KO Body Care, certified fitness trainer and mom of 2 little girls who's just trying to juggle it all and feel as good as possible. I'm so grateful that you're here. Now let's get started, sexy. Hi everyone. If you felt a little lost in the direction of your career, your family, or even your health, perhaps it's time to tune into the planets for guidance. Welcome back to Keep It Simple Sexy. I'm your host, Christine Bullock. Today, my guest is Julie Rader, a longtime friend and expert astrologer, to teach us how we are all a little bit more connected to the universe than we may think and provide us the extra tools to utilize the universe in our mindful living. Julie is an intuitive astrologer, a yogini, and a homeschooling single mommy of 2 very cute kids. She uses astrology as a roadmap to help navigate daily planning, parenting, relationships, health, career, and finances. And Julie is the creator of Astrology Life Hacks and Moon Meditations. Welcome, Julie.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to have you on here. You are a wealth of information, and I think astrology feels like something that's so far out there for people that I cannot wait to share the information that we're about to share with them so that they can just tune in a little bit more to the universe around them.
Wonderful. Well, I am so grateful to be here and honored to be here. And yeah, astrology is something that does seem really out there. And I love taking ancient techniques, even with yoga and meditation, and making it more applicable in the modern world so that we can use it to live a more harmonious, balanced life, really.
I mean, we definitely, if you understand science or if you have a little bit of spirituality, I think it's either way. Like you have to understand that we're very much connected to the world around us and this amazing source and how it runs. You know, I want to back up too to say, Julie, I mentioned she's a longtime friend. As she quotes herself, as an old school yogini. And honestly, when I started teaching yoga 20 years ago in Pittsburgh, like maybe over 20 years at this point. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, there was so much yoga that I kind of backed away from it because there were so many different types to it. And I feel like for me, it lost what I needed from it. And then when in meeting Julie through her yoga classes, I found what I needed in that yoga again was just taking like the ego out of it from the teacher too, and drawing you back in. She was so great with the meditations, and she really pulled the astrology into our weekly yoga. So whether we were doing a more energetic flow or a more calm flow, she always was utilizing it in that way, even before just fully kind of jumping into astrology for like personal readings and our friends and your platform and your weekly readings. It was the most in touch type of yoga class that I've ever experienced, and I absolutely loved it.
Thank you so much for saying that. Astrology has always been a part of my life. I became intrigued when I was young. I was in elementary school and I would see my grandma studying astrology. And so I self-studied for many years, and I would always, like you said, bring it into my yoga practice. And I was at that time looking for a course that would teach me the basics of astrology, not so much chart readings. And I couldn't find it, which is why I created the whole Astrology Life Hacks. But now that I found my teacher and I'm doing the chart readings and everything, it is so fascinating. Carl Jung, the astrologer, he was, a protege of Sigmund Freud. He would do the charts of all of his patients so that he could better understand them. And J.P. Morgan was stated that millionaires don't need astrologers, billionaires do. In ancient astrology, the kings would use astrologers to learn when to go to war, when to make certain decisions, when to grow crops. It's been used all through history. And I parent my two children differently based on their individual astrological charts. It's something that has been really life-changing for myself and my family, for sure.
How do you feel, and this is not where I was going to lead into, but how do you feel like it's changed your parenting, or what kind of response, I guess, the feedback that you've gotten from changing your parenting to what's going on around in the universe and the moons and all that?
Well, my daughter is a Scorpio moon. She's Aquarius, but her moon is in Scorpio. And we'll be talking a lot about the moon today. In
Mhm.
ancient astrology, everyone knew their moon sign. Here in modern astrology, we know our sun sign, like based on when your birthday is. But the moon changes sign every 2.5 days. And the moon really it tells us how we're going to have emotional responses
Mhm.
to situations innately. So my daughter, being a Scorpio moon, she feels everything really deeply. She can become a little jealous if I'm giving my son more attention. And with that Scorpio moon, I know that if she is in a room hiding, or if I haven't seen her for a couple minutes, she's often in a room, upset, hiding, and feeling like she's not loved. So I know with her, I have to drop everything, go to her, comfort her, and really treat her in a way differently than if she had like a Capricorn moon. With a Capricorn moon, I could be a little bit more authoritarian or telling her, okay, this is what we need to do. And I could be more rational with her.
Mhm.
But so in that way, I parent her differently than my son, who has a Taurus moon, who's way more grounded. He's peaceful. He's a Cancer. He's also sensitive, but he doesn't have the emotional outbursts on a more regular basis than as much as she does. So for him, I know I can take a little bit more peaceful approach and explain things to him a little bit more. So in that way, it's helped me parent them and have a better relationship and response with
I
them.
love that. I need that for my 2 little girls, and it's funny, I'm a Scorpio moon too, I'm like, "Am I
You
that way?"
are.
Yeah. So, but and I think a lot of people, like, before I even moved to Los Angeles, I don't know if it was the time or if it was LA and the cities, but I had no idea. I always knew my sun, but I had no idea about the moon, and what I've heard is that your sun is what people see you as,
Mhm.
like, they see you as something, and then your moon is truly who you are, and like what you're saying, it really is your emotional response to things. So if you don't
Exactly.
know your moon sign out there, it's time to call Julie Radar and find out a little bit more about yourself. But I was just talking to Julie this week about getting a personal reading from her, and I would really love to dive into even my husband and my daughters to learn a bit more about how I can empathize or, support them basically in everything that they do.
Yeah, we'll look
Well,
at all of it. And
that
with
was
your
a little
Scorpio
side
moon,
fact.
well, and with your Scorpio moon, you are definitely the detective and the researcher of the zodiac, which is probably why you have your wonderful, well, your business and yeah,
Yeah.
how you.
Yeah, I know. And this podcast has been so much fun. I've been so inspired by everybody, including yourself. So,
Thank you.
yes. So, I mean, in addition to the sun and the moon, I feel like you must be living under a rock if you have not heard somebody or seen a meme that says something about Mercury in retrograde or the full moon or the new moon or, whatever it is that's been out there. But in fact, like still so many traditions are run by the lunar calendar.
Yes.
But I'm still so confused by it. I just know that I kind of need to hibernate in Mercury retrograde, which we'll get to. But first, let's get to the moons. And can you give us a little overview of what living in alignment with the moon and the moon cycles actually means? And then we'll dive into it.
Perfect. Well, living in alignment with, well, first in the moon phases, when the moon is growing, so from new moon to full moon, is a great time to grow anything we're working on, whether it's in ancient times, that's when, well, and still farmers use it, using the farmer's almanac. That's a great time to grow vegetables, crops, whatever it is. If you're wanting to grow your hair, get a haircut during the growing moon as opposed to the waning moon. Also, if you're growing your business or wanting to expand on something, if you're launching something, launch it during a growing moon, expand on it during the growing moon. And then from full moon to new moon is the waning moon phase. And that's when our energy sometimes becomes a little more depleted. That's more of a time of releasing. At that point, you've maybe already launched something, or your project at the full moon was fully put out into the world. And then you're releasing all of the other things during that phase from full moon to new moon, whether it's cleaning out your closet, cleaning out your emails, cleaning out your schedule so that you are prioritizing what it is you need, because your energy is getting lower. So in that way, you want to make sure you're spending your energy on the projects or the people or the relationships that really mean the most to you. So that's very simply how to live with new moon, or from new moon to full moon to new moon. But at the new moon is more of a time, especially when we see that first light of the moon, usually a day or two after the actual new moon. That's the time to set your intentions, to write it down. And it's like you have a blank canvas at that point.
So, I mean, and generally in living with the alignment of the moon, I can see, okay, it's a cycle. And so many times I hear that the moon is compared to the feminine. And if we really, we have mainly a female fellowship, and we know that we have our cycles, and we know that we have different energy flows throughout our cycles, and with like the amount of fitness we can do and the types of fitness that we can do in that, and we can really apply it to the moon. We also had Shiva Rose on the show, and she mentioned how her cycle is actually fully aligned with the moon cycles, which is really cool when you're very in touch with it.
Yes.
And I think it can be a guidance to us. So many of us are go, 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 or on the opposite side, cannot find that motivation and the energy to, get going. And so we need the ebb and the flow, like the ocean, to protect our health. And so it can be a guide for us to say, okay, this is a time where I'm going to work really hard, maybe in my fitness too. I'm going to do the high intensity. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then I'm going to back it up on the other side of it as I need to start drawing in. And maybe this is where I have to relook at what my intentions were over the past couple of weeks, what I've accomplished, and then reevaluate where I'm going to go in that next ebb again, where I have a high energy, and then break it down, maybe do, a little bit more yoga and that side of it. So it seems like it's just a guide to really living a more balanced life. The Keep It Simple Sexy podcast is brought to you by KO Body Care. Right after I turned 30, something happened that I was not expecting. I noticed the skin on my body was aging faster than the skin on my face. Crepiness, sunspots, fine lines, and wrinkles, they all seemed to creep up overnight. And then it hit me. I'd been using all sorts of powerful anti-aging ingredients on my face, but I wasn't doing the same for the skin on my body. So that's when I had that aha moment to create KO Body Care. KO is face grade body care, which means that it's pure and effective enough for the face, but formulated just for the body. We use the same ingredients as high-end clean skincare brands to help skin look smoother, brighter, firmer, and younger. The product that put us on the map was our Body Beautiful Cream. Beauty editors are obsessed with it because it combines clean, natural ingredients, omega oils, green tea, mangosteen, goji berry with clinical actives like hyaluronic acid and CoQ10. It leaves the skin feeling so hydrated, so smooth, so soft, and even gives your collagen production a boost. So are you ready to see what face grade body care can do for you? Then go to kobodycare.com. For our first time users, use the special code KISS20 for 20% off your purchase.
Hi, my name is Maria Good, and I'm the Global Product Educator for Passiflora. As we know, collagen production slows around age 30, leading to thinning of the skin and skin laxity. When we make more collagen, our skin appears firmer, tighter, lifted, and more robust. Tripolar Stop X Rose is an age-defying tool that uses radio frequency to gently stimulate the production of new collagen and elastin. Dramatic, long-lasting results will come after 3 months of consistent use, but you'll see a difference after the very first treatment. StopX is effective because of the technology. It's made by a company called Polygen, a division of Luminous, which is a global leader in the manufacture of clinical-grade devices. So if you're interested in a tool that's safe, effective, and gives great results at home, this should be your first stop.
I mean, let's back it up because I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of people I know are still beginners with the
Yes.
astrology, and we touched upon the moon cycles a little bit. So I think, what if we talk a little bit more about
Perfect.
the energy flow of each moon cycle. And then we love to give actionable items that people can take with them immediately from this podcast and start to utilize it. So maybe like one ritual, one thing that they can apply to their lives, or like a journaling or, introspection that they can utilize through each of these moon cycles. Maybe we can start with like the dark moon, the new
Perfect.
moon phase. Yeah.
Yeah. So the days leading up to the new moon, it's called the Balsamic Moon. And that's really like the time of pregnancy. It's right before the pregnancy, like when a woman is in third trimester about to give birth, when there's that needing to rest the most, the energy is really low, and knowing that you're about to give birth to something new. So that's the dark of the moon phase, right before the actual new moon. And what happens each new moon, it's when the sun and the moon are at the exact same degree in the sky. So they meet up in the sky. It's this beautiful meeting in the sky. And that's what makes a new moon that we have each month. And that's why we have usually one new moon and one full moon in each month. And throughout the year, there'll be one new moon and one full moon in each sign. So, right before the new moon, resting more, not doing as much of the intense exercise, getting a lot more sleep, and perhaps starting to just meditate or reflect upon what it is you want to create in your life. What do you want your next project to be? Where do you want to put your energy when the energy starts to grow? And then when it's actually the new moon, that is from the new moon for a couple of days, it's considered the new moon phase. That is when the energy in the sky is, and which is also in our body, when it's most fertile for setting intention and writing them down and really perhaps doing a vision board, or so a vision board where you go through a bunch of magazines, or you can do them even on Pinterest, uh,
Mhm.
and create a visual, especially when it's like a Pisces new moon or a Sagittarius new moon or any water sign new moon. So Scorpio, Cancer, even Libra, Taurus, they tend to be artsy, creative, doing a visual of what you want. If it's or you could write it down, especially when it's like a Gemini new moon or a Virgo new moon, or like Aquarius could be either
Mhm.
one. So, but
Yeah, so
either
just
write it
about really just setting your intention at this period of time, whether
exactly.
you're artistic or not, or, just kind of writing it for even just for the month. I mean, I'm sure we could do long term each time just to check in through the moon cycle, but you really can do very short term ones.
Yes.
Like this month for me, I had to cut gluten. I mean, it really can be
Yeah.
very simple to say, okay, for my health and for my inflammation, I need to reduce the inflammation in my body, so I'm cutting gluten.
Yeah.
So it's just something, okay, here's my intention. And then as we
Mhm.
move on to the waxing moon, how does the
Yes.
energy change? And what would my ritual be in checking back with that one intention that I have?
Yeah, so then when you see the moon in the sky, and it's beautiful to actually, as often as possible, go outside and look at the moon. And when
Mhm.
it's exactly at that halfway point, then that's another active phase. So when it's growing, it's still that crescent phase, then
Mhm.
that's more passive. So still knowing what your intentions are, your energy is starting to grow. But then when it's at that half moon phase and it's still growing, that's the first quarter moon phase. Then at that point, checking back in with your intentions and knowing that you're halfway to that full moon. And at the full moon, that's when we want to, that's when our energy is at its peak. So
Mhm.
at that point, we're looking and say, okay, how are we doing on our intention? Are there any modifications we need to make at this point? But our energy is still growing. So at this point, if it's an exercise routine, still kind of building upon it. And yeah.
Yeah, and even if you're saying, so this would be the time too to do more of your high intensity, your long runs, your more high, even high intensity Pilates, whatever that is, but
Absolutely.
we have the energy, which actually women feel in their cycles as well too. It's the
Yep,
same thing. It's a really good time to throw that energy into it. In business, if it's something, perhaps it's like throwing the money and really focusing in on that project for, that amount of time till we hit the full moon.
yep.
And then what do we do? How does the energy change right after we start kind of passing the full moon?
Yeah. So the full moon's when it's at its peak, and we will notice right before the full moon if we're feeling a bit overwhelmed or overstretched. It's often because we have too much on our plate. Maybe we're over scheduling at that time, and that's when we can feel like Luna, moon comes from the word lunatic.
Oh,
That's when
great.
we can feel like we're losing our minds.
That's why I feel like that all the time.
I know the feeling very well. Well, it's also interesting you can even just Google and find out what phase the moon was at the time of your birth. I was born at
Mhm.
a full moon, so I very much feel it. And if
Yeah.
you're born at a new moon, people feel that more. So then, right after the full moon, that's when we start shedding things in our life. That's when our energy starts to wane. It's a waning moon phase. So doing whatever we can do symbolically or in our life, such as cleaning out our email folders, cleaning out our closets, doing things that shed, that release, looking at our schedule, saying, what is it that I can say no to in my schedule so that I'm actually saying yes to me, my priorities, what I want to create in my life. And
I
so, yeah,
I love this because if you're thinking about it in business, yes, it's the emptying the emails, but it's really a great time if I'm working on. I mean, normally I'm juggling a bunch of projects, let's say, but it's a great time for me to look back and say, what did I do wrong in the past, 15 days that is not supporting me in business and health and my family, just in my general life or even in my family. If I'm working towards being a better mommy, like, okay, what did I do that is not supporting my family, and their
mhm,
growth, and how can I fix this? It is that time of introspection which, so many of
yeah,
us lose because we're just constantly go, 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 go.
it's
I
so
love that.
true. And
Mhm,
and so then when you see the half moon, the during the waning phase, that's the third quarter moon. So that's also an active time. There are three active phases. I mean, sorry, four active phases and four passive. So basically, new moon, full moon, and the half moons are the active. So if you want to be a little bit more active during those times, that's great. And
mhm.
then when the moon is in between the other four phases, being a bit more passive, being relaxing a bit more, tapping more into your feminine energy during those times.
Mhm. I love this. Um, and I mean, I can just see how we set these goals for ourselves too, and this is just such a nice way to be able to check in constantly with the
Mhm.
goals, which I think so many of us don't until maybe New Year's. We do it like once a year
Right.
instead of once a month, really. I mean, we know what they are and we're kind of going for it, but you forget, or I'm not eating gluten, then I'm suddenly eating gluten again. But if we're present with ourselves,
Mhm.
this allows us to be present with ourselves and, for that consistent check in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like I do understand the alignment and living in alignment with the moons now.
Yeah, and we can take it even a step further, which is what I've done in my life over the last couple of years. I've started really looking because the moon changes signs every 2.5 days, and when the moon's in certain signs, it really brings out different qualities. So, because the moon will be in each sign sometime during the month. So, if you want, I could go through just some activities that really are where you'll feel more inspired to do them when the moon's in each of these signs. You can get a moon calendar to see where it is daily. It's changed my life because now I feel inspired to do certain activities that I would dread or I would just do because I had it on my to-do list. So now I'm doing my to-do list in line with the moon. So when the moon is in Aries, I always do a sweaty workout. For me, it's the hike. I do the hilliest hike I can do, one where I'm just kicking my butt. Also, that's the day that I run all of my errands. I check as many things off my to-do list as possible that require a lot of energy. When the moon is in Taurus, that's a great day to go grocery shopping because Taurus is all about food. It's also a great day to um, look at your budget if you have anything to do with finances, or if you're wanting or gardening, or even in your business, if there's something where you're wanting to really put roots down, it's fixed earth. So starting something on a Taurus moon that you want to be very long lasting, that's great for that. Gemini, wonderful time for any kind of communications. Great time to do all the emails. If you're writing up content, if you're writing a newsletter or a blog, if you have to make phone calls, also great for doing any hands-on projects or travel, or even just planning travel, more road trips, short distance travel. When the moon is in Cancer, Cancer is ruled by the moon, but Cancer is when the moon is in Cancer, I find I don't really want to leave the house. That's Do more home projects. You could entertain at home, cook, do some home cooking, things like that. Anything at home. When the moon is in Leo, uh, that's when I film a lot of my YouTube videos. Also, a great time for romance, doing anything with the kids or fun. Leo's also the sign of the entrepreneur. So, anything that is entrepreneurial as well, as long as it's fun and uplifting. Virgo. Virgo is very detail oriented. So if you have something that you need to focus on and go back and edit and work on the details, Virgo is a very work oriented, detail oriented sign. So you'll find that you can really focus on projects and sit and do the work for long periods of time when the moon's in Virgo. When the moon's in Libra, um, the energy, it's an air element, so it's not as focused as in Virgo. This is a great time to do any beauty routines, listen to music if you're creative and you write or play music. When the moon's in Libra, great time for that, but really, especially beauty, fashion, things of that nature. Or if you're just trying to find more balance in your life. Scorpio moon, great time to do research. Scorpio is the great detective of the zodiac. So when the moon is in Scorpio, you want to get to really to the heart of it. So research, any kind of one-on-one interactions. Scorpio moon, not so great for like going to a big party, more of connecting on a deep level with one person. You're not going to want to swim in shallow waters that day. You're going to want to really connect with somebody on a deep level. Sagittarius, when the moon's in Sagittarius, great day for big picture planning or any kind of spiritual rituals that you do, philosophical as well. And it's wonderful for learning. Also Gemini moon learning too, but Sagittarius if you're learning higher learning. Capricorn, anything with business, budgeting, business, writing out business plans, things like that. Capricorn's the CEO of the zodiac, so becoming the CEO of your life and really organizing when the moon's in Cap. When the moon's in Aquarius, more futuristic thinking, great day for learning astrology, very humanitarian. And when the moon is in Aquarius, call a friend, spend time with friends. And then finally, last but not least, when the moon is in Pisces, you need extra rest. Go to bed earlier, sleep in if you can. Great day for yoga, meditation, anything spiritual. Take a long bath, get into a hot tub, get into or near water. And that's how to use the energy of the moon on a daily basis or on a monthly basis.
Julie Rader is the creator of Astrology Life Hacks, an online course perfect for anyone wanting to learn astrology basics, including how to understand your natal chart, lunar cycles, the meaning of retrogrades, and so much more. The course also incorporates astrology yoga practices for retrogrades, full moons, new moons, and more. Julie is an intuitive astrologer who offers individual, relationship, and family chart readings. The individual charts look at a natal psychological makeup as well as predictive techniques to determine the best way to utilize the energy of the coming weeks, months, or years. In the relationship and family chart readings, Julie looks at how the individual charts interact with one another for compatibility and understanding of a partner's or child's innate tendencies and how they can work together harmoniously. For more information from Julie, visit julierader.com. It's JULIERADER.com. I will say I still don't understand the retrograde.
Yeah.
I just know everyone's like, don't sign contracts during Mercury in retrograde. My technology truly does always get a blitz right when it starts or right beforehand.
Yeah.
And just kind of be a little bit more quiet and retrospective and all of that during it. So please explain the retrograde and what it means to myself and everybody.
Yes. So when a planet goes retrograde, and all the planets go retrograde, not the sun and moon, they're not technically planets anyway. Like Mercury goes retrograde about 4 times a year for 3 weeks at a time. So it's retrograde a decent amount of the time.
So physically, what is it actually doing? What is retrograde?
So retrograde, it's when the planet appears to be moving backwards in the sky. It's not actually. However, so every sign has 30 degrees in it. And when a planet stations, so there's that shadow period a few weeks before retrograde and a few weeks after, and that's when the planet is really slowing down in the sky. And if we think about it just metaphorically, it's as if the planet goes on vacation during retrograde.
Oh, okay.
So that shadow period before, like right before you go on vacation where you're trying to get everything accomplished, but also you're kind of planning for the trip. So you're not doing everything and you're planning for the trip. Mm-hmm. And then the moment that it stations, that's as if the plane is taking off. So at that point, like when Mercury stations, it's in the air, it's offline completely. And then it's on vacation, and Mercury rules communication and it rules travel. So when Mercury's on vacation or retrograde, it's like we're getting that out of office reply. So everything is delayed. And then it comes back. So when Mercury stations and then it goes into its shadow period again, then it's back in the office, but it's getting caught up on everything. So it's not fully doing all the work that it would normally do because it's playing catch up. So that's what's going on in, like, metaphorically or in layman terms.
I love that.
And so because when it's going retrograde, it's moving back in degrees. And when a planet hits certain degrees, it interacts or has conversations with other planets in the sky. And then it also interacts with planets in our what we call our natal chart. And that's the chart, our birth chart, where the planets were at the time of our birth. So during retrograde, the reason why it's great to go back and look at projects maybe you started, or maybe you hear from people that you haven't heard from in a while. If you're single, when it's retrograde, you almost always will hear from your exes during that time. And you'll find that the ghosts come back, and it's really a time to either revisit that or for final closure. In business, it's a great time to, instead of launching something new during retrograde, to go back and edit things you've already done, or work on projects, clean them up, things that, like you said, you're always pushing forward. And I feel the same way. So when it's retrograde, I go back and I say, okay, what project did I start and I didn't fully launch out or launch into the world, or I need to edit and a bit more, polish it up. Retrograde's great for that.
I love it. So I can apply, I mean, you can see where if you have projects where you're like filming, for instance, kind of like this, this might be a time though where you're not necessarily doing the film, doing the actual action of what you need. You're really kind of going back, you're writing the script, you're rereading the script, whatever it may be, just doing a lot of planning. It's a time for planning and introspection and going back to it.
Yes. And you can still sign contracts if you have to. I had a yoga student I'd always talk, in class about don't sign contracts. And he came to me once, he's an attorney. And he was like, I sign contracts every day. And I was like, okay, just, reread them a few more times than normal. And if you're born, like I was born Mercury retrograde, and a lot of people are, it's retrograde about 40% of the year. Then it doesn't apply so much to you if you're born Mercury retrograde. It just means kind of your whole life is a little bit of a Mercury retrograde. There might be delays and things, miscommunication, things like that.
All right. Well, everybody's going to have to go out there then and contact Julie and get your birth chart read, which I'm actually in the process. I said, you need to help me out here. And we're trying to schedule it right now so we can learn more about it. But
looking forward to that.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Julie. I mean, I feel like I definitely have a better understanding and the guidance that I need, and how to just, it may be your first step if you're just listening to this and it's just your first step into all of this, but it is a great way to become in touch. Like we say in a lot of our other podcasts, everybody always says nature. Like it doesn't matter where they come from, but something for peace of mind, and is just getting in touch with nature, whether it's taking a walk, and this is the same thing, which is allowing you to get in touch with your needs more too, because you're checking in. You really are throughout these cycles, checking in with what you need to improve your life. So that's beautiful.
And to touch real quick on the new moon, when you're writing intentions, doing one for the cycle, the 30-day cycle. However, every new moon starts a 1-month cycle, a 6-month, and 18-month, a year and a half cycle. So you can be writing goals for the month, half of the year, and the next year and a half. So maybe some months you're just doing it for the month. And maybe on the bigger new moons, or when you feel more inspired, think a bit more long term. And on the full moon, because it's a great time for releasing, you can do a ritual of writing down things you want to release. Like for me, I'm working on not complaining. So if there are things that you're wanting to release, then you write it down, and you can even burn it and release it that way. Or you can write a letter of forgiveness. You don't even have to give it to the person, but releasing something and having these kind of rituals really do add to the energy of it and allow us to, again, live harmoniously in alignment with the lunar cycles.
That's amazing. And I've actually heard that of people burning things, and now I understand it more. It's
Oh,
really it's the intention of it as well. I mean, it's
yeah,
what it's doing to you
exactly.
mentally as the intention to do it.
Yes.
Not necessarily that you're gonna absolutely release it at that moment, but you're putting that intention, and I bet you will in the future if you
Mhm.
continue to just tune in to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the very end, we always have a speed round. You
Okay.
actually answered one of my questions, which is what are you currently working to improve upon in your life? Which I
Yes.
like. It's the complaining, and we're all there. So me too, actually. This morning I
Yes.
was like, I'm just going to turn this around and we're just going to be like, let's start that day over again and not complain about
Yes.
whatever was going on this morning. So let's ask you then another speed round question, which is what is your favorite evening ritual?
Ooh, well, I always, after I put the kids to bed, I get out my yoga blocks and strap and I do some restorative yoga poses. I'm usually listening to either an astrology podcast, like one of my teachers, or music, and just I allow myself to just have a few moments. And then after that, I sip on some tea and I just reflect upon the day. Usually the days are very busy. So I reflect upon it and then I make a goal or visualize how I want the next day to be.
That's beautiful. I love that. You've really touched upon your physical well-being, your nutritional well-being, and inside with the tea, and then your emotional and mental well-being, along with just improving. I mean, each of those is going to cleanse from the day before, the stretching, the opening, the hot water, and the mental part of it, and then you're moving on to the next day for growth every single day.
Yeah.
If you've taken anything, take that. That's beautiful, Julie.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your guidance in helping all of us tune in to the amazing world around us, Julie. We really appreciate all of your astrological guidance today.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Keep It Simple, Sexy. I hope today's episode guided your monthly routine and enhances your life. For more information from Julie, her weekly astrology readings, or a private reading on the go, go to www.julierader.com. It's JULIERADER.com. And you can follow her on her Instagram handle, julierader.LA, like Los Angeles. You can also visit the notes of today's podcast for bulleted highlights of actionable steps you can apply to your daily health routines. Subscribe to us. And if you loved today's episode, which I'm sure you did, please review it and share it with a friend who would love to hear it. Thanks, everybody, and have a full moon kind of day. Have questions you need answered? Text me at 1-310-361-8697. Make sure you're following me on social at Christine Bullock, and have a healthy, happy week. See you next time.